So I'm going to be talking about John chapter 8, and I'm going to be dealing for the next couple of weeks just about this particular subject. I'm going to do all of the teachings of Jesus about human relationships. We can talk about our relationship with God, but we got to talk about our relationship with one another. That's where we critically fail as Christians, is in our relationship with one another. You heard this story, and what do you think the story is about? Sometimes we think it is about the fact that this is about nobody is without sin. That is what it's about. But the central figure in the story is Jesus. The central figure in the story are the teachers of the law, and the central figure in the story is the woman caught in the act of adultery. These figures are all in this particular story. This story is about forgiveness, mostly. It's about the forgiveness Jesus displayed and showed toward this woman, and the unforgiveness of the teachers of the law. The teachers of the law represent the church people who are religious, people who have an orientation and who claim to be very religious, and they are very devout in their belief about religion. And so Jesus has to confront all of this. Jesus has to face all of this. Jesus has to look at all of this, and Jesus is confronted by this. And really the issue is, think about this. Jesus is just teaching. And people are listening to him. They are around him. And all of a sudden, Jesus is brought into this particular matter. Jesus wasn't looking for this situation. They brought this situation to Jesus. And what they wanted to do, they wanted to try to confuse Jesus and kind of put Jesus in a position where they could trap Jesus with an answer based upon the law in the Old Testament. Now, one thing you got to realize, Jesus was dealing with a crowd that really knew the Old Testament, and they really wanted to talk about in John chapter 8 about the letter of the law. And Jesus is going to be talking about grace more than the letter of the law. So I want you to look at this now. I want you to see how these people deal with this particular woman who is caught in the act of adultery. Now, I could unlayer this story, and there's a lot of obvious questions in John chapter 8 that you need to be asking. If she was caught in the act of adultery, now listen, act of adultery. They knew the location, and they caught her in the act. She was doing what it was they accused her of doing. This wasn't something they were told, they were there, they saw it. Now, I want you to read this very carefully and see, this is where we don't get it. In John chapter 8, but Jesus went to the Mount of Olives early in the morning. He came again to the temple, and all the people came with him, and he sat down and taught them. In verse 3, then the scribes and the Pharisees brought to him a woman caught in the act of adultery. Now, wouldn't you suppose and suggest that the people who caught her should have been where Jesus was, listening to his teaching? Since they were the scribes and the Pharisees, and Jesus was teaching, because Jesus went again into the temple. The temple was their domain. It's where the scribes and the Pharisees, where they operated from the place in which they operated. And if Jesus is at the temple, they should have been there to at least hear him teach. But instead, guess what they're doing? They are not at church, they are out looking. Whether they happen to look for this woman, or whether they found this woman, or they happen to come upon this woman, they caught her in the very act of adultery. Should have been at church or at the temple. That's where they operate from, the temple. But instead, they out in the streets, wherever this woman was. Now, some scholars would suggest this woman was in the red light district. What are they doing over there? Whether it was in somebody's home, what are they doing there? Whether it is at her home, what are they doing there? Let me tell you this. If you go looking for something, you'll find something. I'm entitling this lesson, who can throw the first stone?
That's right.
Who can throw the first stone? Because let me tell you something, if you go looking for something, you will find something that is bad and negative about anybody. It ain't nobody in this room that if I went looking or you went looking, you wouldn't find something that was a stain upon a person's reputation or something negative. Or, you know, we love the term, you would not find some skeletons in the closet. They went looking for something. Because if they didn't go looking, they probably wouldn't have found this woman where she was doing what she was doing. And I really want that to be a cautionary tale. You gotta be careful when you go looking for something, because I'm guaranteeing you're gonna find something. They were trying to find something, and when they went looking, they found something. Because they wanted to use this particular incident as a way to trap Jesus. In other words, they were looking for a situation like that because that's what the lesson is going to indicate to us. They were looking for something like this in order to trap Jesus. This was just not something random. They knew this woman, they knew of this woman, they knew this woman's reputation. They knew that this woman was frequently visited by men. She was probably a prostitute or a street worker who men frequently visited in order to get sexual favors. They knew that both single and married men, and by the indication in the text, this woman probably was married. Because there's a difference between fornication and adultery. They said they caught this woman in the act of adultery, not in the act of fornication. Because the law subscribes in the book of Leviticus, in Deuteronomy, that this is punishable by death. So this woman was probably married. Whether she was happily married, whether her marriage had fallen apart, we know that she was committing adultery. And you gotta understand this, that in that culture, it was way more severe for a woman than it was a man. And so this woman was literally caught in the act of adultery. And when they had set her in the midst of Jesus, or set her in the midst of the teacher of Jesus, they brought this woman. They were looking for something and they found something. And when they found something, they said, okay, we got it. We got him, and we got him trapped in a situation. Now, let me tell you this. They wasn't trying to use the woman. They were trying to trap Jesus. The woman was just an innocent victim. They were trying to score points with the public or those people who were listening to Jesus. The woman was just a real immaterial person. They really wasn't trying to out the woman, they were trying to trap Jesus. But they used the woman in order to trap Jesus. They found a situation where they found a woman who was committing adultery on her husband. Now, the language of the text doesn't indicate if that's the first time she's done it or she had been doing it. But the woman wasn't the object of their actions. Jesus was. They just pulled this woman into this situation, and this woman just so happened to be doing something wrong. And they targeted this woman in John chapter 8. They targeted this woman and said, okay, she is going to be who we're going to use, and we're going to use her to try to trap Jesus. This woman, if she had been doing this, it didn't bother them before. It never been an issue. But now they see an opportunity to trap Jesus. And so they use this woman, who is probably not doing this publicly, but in private. They probably knew about it. And so now they see an opportunity to use her to try to trap Jesus. That's crazy to me, that people will do that. They will take a private situation that is a private situation and they will use it then publicly to try to, now they definitely embarrassed the woman. But more than that, they were trying to confront Jesus. Let me tell you why they were doing it. They wanted to show Jesus that they were smarter than Jesus when it came to spiritual matters. They wanted to prove that Jesus wasn't as educated and as knowledgeable as he thought he was about the law. Jesus was the target. The woman was not the target. Now you got to understand that. The woman was not the target of John chapter 8. She was not who they were trying to get. They were trying to get Jesus. She was just doing probably what she had been doing or what she was doing, and they saw it as an opportunity. Aha, we got him now. Now what is he going to do? Now he's here at the temple teaching. He got all these people there listening to him teach. Now let's trap him to see how he's going to answer this question, because they were right in what they were saying. Under the law, she was supposed to be stoned. They were right in that matter. She was supposed to be stoned, and so in that matter, they were right. In other words, there was a consequence for her action, and that was extreme because they had, under the Levitical law, they had just left Egypt. God was a little stricter in the sense that God was trying to get Egypt out of them, because in Egypt they learned all of these worldly and these pagan ways, and God didn't want them to practice those worldly and pagan ways. And so, but I want you to get in this lesson that Jesus was the target. This woman just so happened to be used by the scribes and the Pharisees to trap Jesus. And so they pulled this real, she wasn't an innocent victim. She was guilty of what they accused her of. So she was not an innocent victim. She was doing what they accused her of. But they drugged this woman out in public and really brought public shame upon this woman's husband. And they thought that they were going to use this woman's indiscretions to trap Jesus, but also to embarrass the woman. I'm telling you, who can throw the first stone? If you think for 1 second that your life is shielded from people knowing things you do, you are wrong. There is no such thing as, if the only way people don't know it is if you do it by yourself. But most of what you do, you don't do it by yourself. And you got to be careful. Because listen, I know we're supposed to trust each other, and trust is a strong and positive word. But let me tell you something. You can't trust everybody. I don't care how much they say they love you, how much they tell you, I ain't gonna tell nobody. I don't care how private you are. Because when relationships dissolve or become tense, or if there's animus between two people, people will talk and tell everything, especially when they hurt. They don't have to get mad. No. They trust to tell. That you can still be friends. Yes. But if somebody got one individual that they trust to tell something, so you don't want somebody to know. Don't be. Keep it to yourself. Absolutely. And listen, this woman, they set this woman in the midst. Now, you know, back in the old days, the church I grew up in, Shady Grove, my mother was one who got pregnant outside of marriage. Her husband got killed, and she ended up having me with a married man. And they made her come before the whole church. and confess her sin, ask the church for forgiveness. And they set her down. From singing in the choir, from ushering. That's what they used to do. Yeah. That's what the church, and that's where, this is one of the foundational principles where they got this from. But in the sense that you call people out and you call them out and you shame them to kind of, as a form of discipline, to stop them from doing a certain thing. But that ain't gonna stop folks. But that's not what they ever do. And so, I've already told you, in this culture, it was more severe for a woman to do it than a man to do it. Because, now I ain't gonna get into that, y'all ain't gonna get me down that rabbit hole, but let me tell you, this is what the text said. They set her in the midst of him, and they said to him, "Teacher, this woman is caught in the act of adultery." In the very act. They said, first of all, she's caught in the act of adultery. They wanted to put emphasis on it when they said, in the very act, we saw her doing it. We walked in on her. We witnessed this with our own eyes. This is not speculation. This is not what we heard. This is not secondhand information. We call her in the very act of adultery. And then they said in verse 5, now, Moses in the law commands us that such a one should be stoned. We got to stone her. We got to severely punish her. But that's not what they wanted to do. What they wanted to do was what the verse says next after but. But what do you say? They're trying to trap. What do you say about this situation? How do you want to handle this situation? And what do you say we should do? Should we follow the law of Moses, or should we do nothing? Now this is a trap. Now this is the problem I have when I talk about who can throw the first stone. You know, it's a sin until you do. It's a sin until you do. It's a sin until you get caught. You know what I'm saying? You'll get that on the way home. There are different rules for different people. There are different standards for different people. Because when it is this person, you want the most severe reaction, the most severe punishment, and you want us to come down on that person with a hammer until it's one of your kids, your husband, your wife, your daughter, your son. And that's the tendency that we have. And see, Jesus was very patient in his response. He was very deliberate. He deliberated in his own mind. And so they wanted Jesus to react immediately, impulsively. I can tell you, when people mess up, don't be impulsive in your reaction, because it could be you. I'm going to unpack that Galatian text that says, if any man be overtaken in a fault, ye who are spiritual, restore such a one in the spirit of meekness, considering yourself, lest you also be tempted. You never know when the shoe might be on the other foot. Don't ever be so prideful and think you're so disciplined that you would never have an indiscretion that people will see. Because see, we love to categorize failure. If you get caught cheating, that's worse than drinking. If you're drinking, that's worse than stealing. If you get pulled over for a DUI, that's worse than adultery. No. When you do what is wrong, I understand the severity. Some of them affect other people, and they are more egregious because you involve other people in your indiscretions or your mess. But be careful when you want the hammer to come down on somebody else, because the tables might turn and it might be you or somebody you love. I can't stand parents to see something somebody else's child has done And that first thing they want to cry, that's a crying and a shame. But then when it's their child, they like, girl, you know he just young. You know people mess up and people make mistakes. Just keep your mouth closed. Keep your mouth off of other people. Because I'm telling you, you better be careful, because there is an issue of, if you get in this position of being judgmental and hypercritical of everybody's mistakes, if a brother be overtaken in a fault, ye who are spiritual, people who saved and have a spiritual orientation, these were the scribes in the Pharisees. Now let me tell you about these people. They thought they were better than everybody else. You couldn't tell them nothing. They went to church, they stayed at church, they practiced their religion openly, they wore robes, and boy, you couldn't get them, you couldn't beat them in knowing the scripture. They knew exactly what the law of Moses said, and so they wanted Jesus to react in it, but they said, but what do you say? And they said this to test him, to see how Jesus was going to react to this particular situation. And it wasn't about the woman, it was about Jesus. I'm telling you, that is so crazy. I don't want none of y'all to be targeting people, especially when you know that they ain't doing right. Pray for them. Yes. Don't try to out them. Now really, I'm telling you, this is about who can throw the first stone. Don't try to out nobody, because everybody's struggling with something. If you see somebody drinking or doing something they shouldn't be doing, the first thing you want to do is go tell everybody and publicize the indiscretions of people. You got to be very careful with that. And see, all this stuff, I know we talk about what's done in the dark shall come to the light. All that might be true. It might be true. Sometimes it ain't. It might come to the light, but it ain't your job to bring it into the light and to shine the light on other people's failures, mistakes, and indiscretions. It's not your job. You're not the morality police.
I call it somebody appointed you to be the town crier.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's the person that goes looking for people's indiscretions and to point them out. You remember one of my favorite movies is The Scarlet Letter with Esther Prynne. When she committed adultery, they made her wear the Scarlet Letter, which is an A, red, and they made her march her through town in the Scarlet Letter, and because she had committed an indiscretion, and they wanted to give her the walk of shame. And let me tell you something, that is not the right position to have. Not as a church person, not as people who have a religious orientation. Now let me tell you the difference between church folk and folk in the world. Now y'all might disagree, but I know you ain't, because all of you ain't always been in the church. You know non-church people protect each other's secrets more than church folk? Yeah. But church people, especially when we get angry, especially when we want to gain an advantage, especially when there's envy and hatred, we want to out a person to shame them. They wanted to out this woman. Be careful trying to out people that you know have indiscretion and sins, problems, and struggle. Now listen, something about people we just know, and we don't accept it, that that's just who they are. You know one of my favorite members of this church? Charles. He drunk, came to church drunk, sung in the choir drunk. Come out here when I was out here working the church, he was always drunk. I love Charles. And Charles come out here and ask me for $20. I said, Pastor, now I'm a little tipsy, but can you let me hold something? I just loved him, but I love that about it. Did nobody have to tell me nothing about Charles. Charles was just Charles, and Charles struggled all of his life, but Charles came to church, and he sung, and he done the best he could, and Charles wasn't gonna bother nobody. Y'all remember Charles? And boy, listen, when he was showing off, then he could show no sign. Because when he got sober, you might have had a problem listening to him sing. But boy, when he was showing off, he was right. But Charles didn't have no shame. He tell me, I sat out there and welcome folk to the church, and y'all be like, yep, Pastor, don't hold me too close, because I got a little, I smell a little different. And I'll be like, cut y'all, man, come on here. Everybody worry about how you man. Now listen, that's the point, and God rested his soul. He was a great person. And I'm telling you, there's some things, I said that, something about people everybody already know. You ain't got to tell me that. We all struggle. But don't try to out people. That's what they were doing. They were trying to out this woman to trap Jesus. Now look, this they said that they might test him, that they might have something of which to accuse him. They tried to invalidate the ministry of Jesus. They trying to invalidate Jesus' public ministry. Now that's why people do the things that they do. They don't want you to have credibility with people. They will do everything they can to try to ruin your credibility as a person of faith. You do know you're a target. Because you come to church, people target your character. They try to find something on you to accuse you, to try to poison you in the eyes of people so you don't have any credibility. Now, I know some of y'all ain't sitting up in here like somebody ain't trying to target you because you come to church and because you talk about Jesus on your job and in your community. You know, I tell you how you know they target you. You be like, why don't you come to church? Why I come to church for? You was at the club with me last night. We were drinking last night. First thing they want to do is throw up something negative that they know about you. Yeah. And my simple response was, well, if I'm all that, you might well come on to church with me and we'll all be together. We out here together. Yeah. If we liars, we all liars out here in the street. You might well come on to church. And then it'll be lying Christians and lying saints in church. But people will try to find something to accuse you, to try to discredit you. Discredit your ministry, discredit the work that you do. That's why they wanted to bring this situation to Jesus, to try to discredit him in front of church people, in front of the people that really loved Jesus and was following Jesus and was one of and people who were Jesus' disciples. They wanted to discredit Jesus. We have so much of that going on today. You a target. I'm a target. People try to discredit your public ministry. People try to discredit your public confession of faith. And they did it to try to discredit Jesus. To say, yeah, y'all listen to him teach. Yeah, y'all at the church. And he's here teaching. But he ain't what y'all think he is. That's what people do. Let me tell you something. You need to get to know people for yourself. Don't let anybody tell you what to think about people that you respect and love and you hold in high regard. First of all, you shouldn't think the people that you love and respect and hold in high regard are perfect, because they ain't. You got to give room for people to make mistakes. We are supposed to, as Christians, live a life above reproach, but when people do fail, and they are going to fail, ain't nobody perfect. Quit thinking that because somebody is married, they're more moral. Quit thinking that because somebody is single, they're immoral. Quit thinking because people are deacons, they're perfect. Quit thinking because a man is a preacher that he doesn't have any struggles, weaknesses, or failures. Y'all get what I'm saying? But people will do everything they can to try to discredit people that they know you have an admiration for, that you listen to. That's the danger in the church today. Do you know how much negative stuff people say about people who you respect and hold in high admiration? They'll do everything they can to try to pollute your mind about somebody that you respect and love as a teacher. They ain't never got nothing positive to say. And listen, they'll be like, I don't know why you're going out there to that church. That preacher ain't right. He this, he that. They said this, I heard that. Trying to discredit somebody. That's why people accuse. That's why they try to poison you. And my point to people when they say stuff like that, well, I don't care where you go, they saying something about every preacher, every Sunday school teacher, every deacon, every choir member. There is no perfect church. There's no perfect preachers. I know some folks think they are perfect, but they ain't.
All right, then.
They are man just like you are. I am. There are no perfect people. And people jump from church to church because they allow people to poison their minds with the person that they hold in admiration or elevate them into a position of respect. That's what they wanted to accuse Jesus. But Jesus stooped down. Now, I love this. Now, this is what I really want to talk about. Because the title of this lesson is, Who Can Throw the First Stone? Jesus stooped down and wrote on the ground with his finger. Now, okay, let's stop. Pause. You do know who it was that was writing, right? Colossians says, by him all things consist. Jesus was there when God says, let us go down and make man. He's omnipotent. He's all-knowing. It ain't nothing that Jesus did not know about every individual standing accusing this woman. They didn't know the secrets about each other. They didn't know the dirt on each other. The woman didn't know the dirt on them, but Jesus did.
All right.
Now, whatever you want to say, Jesus wrote on that ground. Whatever he wrote on the ground made all of them put their head down. One scholar said, let's just say there were 21 men there and 21 women, because there were some women in that crowd too, accusing. He wrote their names down, and then he wrote their indiscretions down. Michael, Patsy, Carrie, Miss Jefferson, you think to come to church every Sunday, but here's your indiscretion. Steen, here yours. He started writing all them names down. And then you look at the woman and you just condemning her and you think you got a leg up. And then what he wrote on the ground, you didn't think nobody knew. But you and the person you did it with. But the eyes of the Lord are in every place. His ears hear everything. I'm going to give you this. Now, let me tell you what Jesus didn't do that they did. And see, this is why I love Jesus. Now, they brought the woman. Jesus did not out them. The text does not indicate that he outed them and said anything. He just started writing. Because he wanted them to know that I know what you don't think I know. And I know what other people in this crowd trying to condemn this woman don't know. But just to let you know that I know it, I'm going to write your name down. And I'm going to write down your indiscretion. And they better be glad, Sister Calvin, that he only wrote down one indiscretion. Because he could have probably had a whole list by everybody's name. And then look what that text says. As though he didn't hear. In other words, he wasn't even listening to them. They still just talking. Yeah, like he ain't listening to them. He just steadily writing. He just still, they just talking, they just all probably standing around. Could you imagine, let me paint the picture in your mind. The woman standing there with her head down, they standing around the woman, they standing around Jesus, they got this woman in this circle, They got Jesus in this circle and they just talking and they just screaming and they just trying to get a response. Jesus just right. And then I could see him in my mind's eye. That when he got to a name, the person is screaming and hollering and pointing. Oh Lord. How he know that? They set up a meeting. Then he kept on writing. Another person saw their name and what their indiscretion was. They stopped talking immediately. And they continued to ask him. That's how I tell you, they just still talking. They continued to ask him. And he rose up and said to them, he without sin. Now let me tell you what he didn't say. He didn't say he without adultery. Because Jesus wanted to cover it all. Because adultery ain't the only sin that folk commit. He covered it all. He without sin. See, you don't think you a sinner and you don't think you have any indiscretion because you don't do the 3 big sins. Murder, lie, steal, commit adultery. But it's a whole lot of other sin. See, because pride is a sin that we don't really think about. But you know the thing that got Satan kicked out of heaven was pride. Satan didn't commit any sexual sin. It was pride. And that's more offensive to God than anything. And pride is when you think you're more than what you are and you feel good about yourself and you think you're better than everybody else and that you're above everybody else and you have a right to look down on other people. Jesus said he without sin among you, and he held up a stone, some scholars believe. And then some scholars believe Jesus was, when he was down there on his knees, right? Jesus picked up some stones close by. Not only did he write their names, what they did, but Jesus set a stone by each one of their names. Now, since y'all want to out this woman and try to make her look bad, I'm going to write down your name. I'm going to write down what you did. I'm going to set a stone by your name. And then he said, ye without sin, cast the first stone at her. Pick it up. There's a stone. That's what you did. That's what you accused her of. Now, if you think her sins is greater than your sins. Now, many scholars believe that those who brought her, their sins were as great as hers. And so it might be suggesting in the text, it's not definitive, but it can be an assumed assumption that at one time or the other, they had committed the same sin. That she wasn't the only one committing adultery. She wasn't the only one rolling around in the hay. She wasn't the only one that had done what she done. Because Jesus confronts them about a sin that is equal to what she's done. Because any other sin probably wouldn't have made them move, like lying or stealing. That probably wouldn't have even moved them. But it had to be a sin equal to what she had done that Jesus knew about and he exposed. Then yeah, she got caught today, but she ain't the only one been doing what she been doing. You just ain't got caught. Boy, I wish I had time, I'd stop right there and beat that. Listen, you just ain't got caught yet. You just ain't got caught yet. Be careful trying to out people. Because you love to talk about what is done in the dark will come to the light. Yeah. It will. But I'm telling you, Jesus literally said, ye without sin. And listen, these we know these Black Baptists. Because they still didn't shut up. Because look at verse 8. And again he stooped down He probably gave them a chance and exposed a little bit the first time, but they wouldn't shut up. And the Bible says he stooped down again and wrote on the ground. And those who heard it, being convicted by their conscience, Jesus started hitting them where it hurt. Because they saw what they didn't know he knew. And they started becoming convicted by their own conscience. Because Jesus reminded them that they weren't so perfect either. That when you try to expose somebody else's stuff, you got some stuff that could be exposed. The greatest illustration of that is Jim Baker and Jimmy Swaggart. Jimmy Swaggart condemned Jim Baker, then Jimmy Swaggart down in Louisiana. He didn't even try to get a woman, but he got a transgender man, dressed like a woman, trying to solicit sex from a transgender man. Because you gotta be careful. And he didn't think nobody was on the back streets of Louisiana. That he could do it and then nobody know it, could nobody see it. But look what it says. Being convicted by their conscience, they went away one by one. Now, some scholars suggest that those who kept talking and wouldn't leave and was insistent that Jesus respond and condemn this woman, Jesus kept on writing. He probably started writing and they wasn't moved by this. And then Jesus kept on writing until finally they said, like, wait a minute, I need him to quit writing. Let me get out of here. One by one. Now listen, I love this part. Now, you cannot pass over, don't look over this part in the text.
Okay.
Beginning with the oldest to the last. Just cause you're old don't mean your record is clean. You old now, you can't do much. Ain't much you can do. But just cause you can't do it don't mean you ain't done some stuff. Now see, I want y'all to quit acting like young folk the only one doing some of the stuff they do. Y'all done some stuff when y'all was their age too. If the record was really told, what kind of sassy pistol you was back in the day. No, you ain't got that shape now. That long hair, curved like a Coke bottle, getting every man's attention. And you didn't say no to every man that was running after you. And every man that ran after you wasn't yours. And this text indicates the oldest started walking away. Because see, they thought that what they done was so far in the past, so long ago, that don't nobody know about it. If I had time and I really didn't want to upset y'all, I'd tell you. Y'all love listening to what folks say about me. Boy, Rem Shamlin this, Rem Shamlin that. But then they tell me, they be telling me, and then they'll be like on my side, they'll be like, yeah, but I remember when so-and-so in your church was young. Boy, they was some serious. Woo, Rem Shamlin. Back in the day, they was a hot mess. Boy, that woman could sure no get around in the day. Man, that fella sure no had some women back in the day. He drunk up a storm. He chased after every woman. And I don't know why they talking about you. But I remember back when. Well, no woman's husband safe around her. Look what the text says. The oldest they started leaving, and then the least, or some indications might be the younger, but it was the old crowd. Because see, sometimes you forget when you get old that you was young. Sometimes you forget when you get old, because you can't do nothing no more, that you act like you ain't never done nothing. But if the record would be told, y'all was worse back then than we are now. Because y'all had more bushes. Y'all the one came up with hide and seek. And you wasn't hiding and seeking. Y'all the one that could, y'all didn't have all these, y'all had done what you could in the barn and the pasture. Yeah, y'all. I ain't no fried chicken. I ain't no fried chicken either. But I'm like Terry Anderson. I done more sinning as an adult than I ever did as a kid. I'm just saying. Y'all get what I'm saying? You got to be careful when you start condemning these young folks. Y'all ain't been all that clean yourself. And it says for the oldest, they started leaving first. In my mind's eye, I love to have an imaginative conversation. Some of them fellas that brought their women, they had their long priestly robes on, they were barely moving. Looked like they were saints, them old scribes, old Pharisees. You know, they done got it out of them. And now they all been up in the church a long time. And Jesus went way back. When they were like 18, he started writing stuff. You gotta be careful. I do like the fact that older people have a standard and they do get on young people about decorum and the way they dress and all that stuff. But that's fine. You're supposed to. It is a decorum in church. But I guarantee you, when you was young, it might have not been miniskirts, eyebrows, and weed, but you had an afro. Them big old shoes on. Michael had an afro with his chest down to hem button, with them big collars hanging out his, with them stacked shoes on. And listen, y'all are the original miniskirt people in the 60s. You remember, listen, don't y'all like y'all ain't watch Soul Train. Y'all know y'all was Soul Train. So I watched Soul Train with Don Cornelius with that afro, them girls out there dancing. I'm telling you, but I'm just saying to you, you got to be careful when you think about these young people and when you think about, talking about, ooh, that's a crying shame. These girls out here in these streets like that. You been in them streets too. Crying shame these girls out here doing. Now, I ain't saying everybody is just had behavior that was wretched, but I'm saying you got some stuff in your past so long ago. I ain't talking about even when you was an adult. You forget now, before you was an adult, you were a teenager. That's back in the time when it was the good time. I call it the good old days. I wish we would bring it back. When girls were fast and boys were managed. Now we got too many boys liking boys and girls liking girls. And then we make boys being managed and girls being fast, we almost make it taboo. That was a good time. That's when we had this heterosexual idea. You remember when we used to play house?
Yes.
You know, the boy would play the father, the girl would play the mama, yes. The girl would play the sisters, the boy would play the brothers, and we would play house. And you remember when we played hide and seek? We would never go look for no boys. We go try to find the girls. And when we find them hiding, we wasn't trying to, we tell them, I ain't found you yet. Give me some sugar. Try to get some sugar, and then we can go out there. I'm just telling you, that's the way culture used to be. That was a good thing. But I'm just saying, don't forget that. And then listen, this is, he literally just, he calls it, and then look what the text said. And Jesus was left alone. Now, I ain't telling you to out nobody, but if somebody come for you, it don't need to be a confrontation, but they left Jesus alone because they targeted Jesus. They left Jesus alone, and they left this woman alone. They left Jesus alone, and the woman standing in her midst. I'm going to tell you this. You need to let Jesus deal with some folk, and you don't try to deal with them.
Right. There you go,
Because they left that woman where she should have been. That was a matter between her and the Lord. It ain't got nothing to do with him. See, that's your problem. You trying to deal with folk, you ain't got no credibility to deal with it.
Well, it's something none of your business. Why would you go?
Why you bothering? That's my point. They should have brought that woman to Jesus and let Jesus deal with that woman instead of trying to tell Jesus how to deal with that woman, because we bad about telling the Lord how to deal with people when we catch them in indiscretion. That woman was left alone with Jesus where she should have been left in the first place. Go ahead.
When they grab her, I can bring the man out.
That's not what they do. That's not what they do. That's not what they do. That's not what people do. Most of the time, when it's a situation like this, the responsibility of the indiscretion in this culture was put on the woman, not the man. That's just culture. That's just society. When I say what I say sometimes to people, now listen, I want y'all to listen to me carefully, because this is a lot of controversy. If a woman gets pregnant, whose fault is it?
It's usually the woman on men.
Let's unpack this. A woman gets pregnant, whose fault is it? Because I'm just telling you how culture works. Both. Okay, you say, some people said both, some people said a woman. Both of them at fault. Because it takes two to tango, right? It takes two to tango. But the issue is, who can stop the pregnancy?
The female.
The female. She can terminate the pregnancy, but she can also keep herself from getting pregnant, even if he try to get her pregnant by taking birth control. He can not get her pregnant by wearing protection. But primarily, the only person that can have a baby is a woman. She has to make sure she protects herself at all costs. If you don't want one, you do whatever you do, because men gonna be low down. He said men gonna be mean. They will be low down and do what you don't want them to do anyway. So I'm just saying, but this particular situation, let me give you this, because I'm finna be finished. And they left that woman standing there with Jesus where they should have left in the first place. Let Jesus deal with her. Let Jesus bring her reconciliation. Jesus showed her forgiveness when they wanted to condemn her. Jesus is about forgiveness. Jesus did not condemn her. Jesus did not even confront her. He literally, when Jesus raised himself up, he saw the woman and he said, "Woman, where are your accusers?" Has anyone condemned you? Now, I ain't got time to really unpack that, but so what are folk that accuse you? And she said, "No one, Lord." And look what he says. "And neither do I condemn you. Go and sin no more." Now that's a controversy. What Jesus said, okay, was Jesus condoning her behavior? No. But Jesus already knew her heart. Jesus was not condoning her behavior. He was not telling her that what she did was all right. But what he said to her, "Neither do I condemn you, but go and sin no more." Stop doing what it is you are doing to get you put in a situation like this in the first place. There has to be a point where you decide that when you get caught so many times, it's time to stop. Go ahead. Please, go ahead.
Okay, we are talking about they caught the woman, right? They caught the woman in the midst of adultery. The men walked in and caught, right?
Yeah.
Maybe they out there because that's what they were going to do, and they caught already in the process of doing it.
Well, yeah, and you could make that assumption, but really, they knew she had been doing it before then. They knew her. Her reputation was probably known. They targeted her because they wanted to target Jesus. It only became an issue when it came to Jesus. They knew she had been doing what she was doing, but they saw an occasion to take this woman and use her as a pawn in order to trap Jesus. People only use what the negative stuff they know about you when they want to use it as a way of discrediting you or discrediting somebody. That's simple. That's a simple lesson. And so listen, who can throw the first stone? I'm not saying we should expect and let anybody get away with anything, and that the church shouldn't have any standards and we shouldn't have any standards that we hold people to. We should hold people to standards. You need to be held accountable for your action and your behavior. That's not what we saying. Because Paul then turns right around and says in the book of Corinthians that there is a man in y'all's church at Corinth. That man is married to his father's wife. And that ain't right. And y'all let that man sit up there and practice and openly serve in that church. Y'all need to sit him down. Because that man is doing what y'all know ain't right. And I ain't saying you're going to stop him from doing it, but you need to at least stop him from serving.
That's right. That's right.
Because he won't acknowledge that what he's doing was wrong, and he won't acknowledge what he's doing is wrong. Them the kind of folk you need to sit down.
Yes, sir.
When you know your stuff is public and your indiscretion is so bad and it is deliberate and you refuse to be set down. If you confront it and you like this woman and you have a contrite and broken spirit and you realize the error of your ways and you're willing to give up that behavior and acknowledge what you're doing is wrong, you are still fit for service. But when your heart has been sealed with a hot iron and you won't acknowledge even what you're doing is wrong, but you want to serve in the church and think you got a voice and credibility, there is a such thing as losing moral authority. That you living openly in sin and you don't think ain't nobody supposed to say nothing. When somebody say something to you, the first thing you want to say, I ain't the only one. No, but you're the only one up in here living openly and acting as if though what you're doing ain't wrong. No, what you're doing is wrong. You get what I'm saying? Anything else? Y'all got any more questions? Who can throw the first stone? I'm not saying that we don't have standards, but quit walking around looking for something, because if you're going to look long enough, you're going to find something. Ain't the truth what I'm saying? I'm going to turn this off before I get on y'all. Who come to Bible still without a Bible. I had to go